Hey guys, it's Halsey Schider with the Helicopter Podcast. We are coming at you from HAI 2024 here in Anaheim, the very last HAI, going to Verticon next year. And I'm joined, I think we're like good friends now, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
we got to spend
romance
some time
already.
Sparrow Tang coming at us from Cascade Helicopter Services and Advanced Helicopter Services. I've been really excited to have this conversation. Like I was talking about when we were grabbing a coffee, I love the entrepreneurial spirit, and I've been able to do some research, stalk you a little bit, figure out who you are, who's this Sparrow guy, and I'm really fascinated to dive in because I think it's really important for individuals within this industry that may be pilots, maybe maintainers, engineers, that maybe have ambitions of having their own business. Ambitions of growing within an organization to the executive team, owning their own business, whatever it may be. And it seems like obviously that's something that you've done. So I'm excited to dive into that. First and foremost, Sparrow. That's an incredible name. Is there a backstory?
I guess not a backstory. It's definitely my given name. Hippie parents is probably the best way to explain it.
That's really funny. People always like Halsey, and I'm like, where do your parents come? I'm like, they were just probably doing something bad.
Yeah, a little peyote.
It came into their mind. They're like, are you named after the Admiral Halsey? And I'm like, I wish I could tell you that, but no, I think my parents were hippies too.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It was a small town in the middle of nowhere, kind of a small mountain town. Born to hippie parents and raised by a bunch of ranchers, loggers, and everything else in between.
Where did you grow up?
Scott Valley is the valley that we grew up in, but It's Northern California.
Northern California.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always, I appreciate unique names. So obviously I have one myself. I've met one other Halsey. Have you met another Sparrow?
Probably wouldn't want to either. I'm sure that
you're a one of a kind guy. I think that's super cool. I was checking out some of the branding that you guys are putting out, and something that that you guys are pushing is this idea of a modest origin. A guy coming from Northern California, a guy that was wrenching on helicopters, now to successfully owning and operating very reputable brands within the space at Advance and Cascade.
Thank you.
Modest origin, kind of just give me the history. Give me your story of where you started and where you're at today.
I guess on the professional side or all the way, how far you want to roll back?
Take me back, man. However far you want to take it. Like I said, I love this idea of being able to, start with nothing, and then grow and build. So I'm just kind of curious to hear, we can maybe kind of start with where you started in aviation and then how that grew into what you're doing today.
So I guess my real introduction to aviation or taste of aviation was helicopter logging during high school and then into right after high school. But nothing real glamorous. It was at the other end of it, working coil and chokers, chasing landing, and underneath a 61 for a company called Croman.
Of course, yeah.
So that was kind of my introduction to what a helicopter was.
How did you even get into that?
Where we grew up, there's limited things you can do with your as a young kid. You're either
I'm sure there's a lot
logging or working for a ranch, or there's kind of a limited amount of job opportunities, and so that was just the one that looked like it was at the time going to make me the most money, and so it ended up just during high school and then right after that, doing that for a minute, enough that it's probably some of the hardest work I've ever done in my life.
I'm sure, and dangerous.
But it just kind of gave me a taste into that side of the business, or helicopters in general. And then fast forwarding, decided I wanted to head off to college a bit. And originally I thought I was going to play football. So that was the idea.
Were you a baller?
I did okay. You
can tell he's good. Anytime I'm okay. What position did you play?
I was a receiver, wide receiver.
Wide out. I was a defensive back guy myself.
Oh, man, you're the guy trying to take my head off.
Exactly. I was all right myself. I was a better coach. I ended up coaching little kid football for, I think, 10 years after high school. Yeah. And always a better coach than player. Two of my kids, not my kids personally, but two kids I coached ended up in the NFL. And one is Henry Mondew. I think he's with the Steelers now, starting on the defense. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's mine wasn't that glamorous. I ended up heading down to play at a small junior college. Ended up blowing my shoulder out for the third time. So 3 shoulder operations later, going, better look for something else to do with my life.
This isn't sustainable.
So they actually had an aviation program at the college. Was pigeonholed in between the ag department in the middle of some barn down in the middle of nowhere.
We're going to put those kids over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just go down there.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went down there and met with the instructors, and I guess it was probably one of those ones that I was interested in it because we had... from just my background of being around the helicopters, intrigued by what it is and that side of it from logging, and enrolled in the program. And they kind of chummed you in. They said, well, the best way to actually get into aviation, because I thought at the time I wanted to be a pilot. I was like, it's a little bit more glamorous.
I mean, we are the better, but it's
fine,
I
mean, that's superior. yeah, exactly.
We break it, you fix it. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're the ones that head for the hotel in the evening, and we're there all night long.
Hey, we call it job security for you guys, all right?
So we ended up, they're like, a great opportunity is to get your A&P license, and then you can make a little money and then get into the flying side of things. So ended up going through it and grinding out the program, and never really got into the flying piece. Just stuck with I make the joke that nobody ever called me because I was a good pilot. So
you go through college, get your A&P, IA.
Yeah, shortly after. You had to wait a few years, but went through all of those. And that was my introduction into at least the real aviation piece.
Of course.
Of it. Yeah.
So what was that? What was your first job outside of college then?
Well, I was during college. I started working for an FBO, line service. Just grinding it out.
That's me too.
Yeah.
I always joke my only working experience that I've ever had has been in aviation. I started line service at 14 years old.
Never looked back.
And worked line service, I think, at 3 different FBOs at the flight school that I trained at. And then from that was an instructor. So, we talk about it on the podcast, actually, about how if you're interested in getting into aviation, start with those jobs, right? I like that idea of being able to be a young person and immersing yourself around aircraft, because you actually do pick up on a lot. You learn a lot doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hear the joke about the guy that pumps the crappers out, right?
Oh, I haven't heard the joke. What is it? I've been crapped on by a hawker.
Yeah, I mean, line service, right? So the guy goes out there and he's going through all the things of pumping out the crappers and doing any of the things on emptying the jets and doing any of that. And guy comes up and asks, "Why do you do this? What would you possibly want to do this?" And he goes, "Well, I don't want to get out of aviation." I mean, it's one of those ones where it's kind of
like people are that passionate.
Yeah.
And honestly,
doesn't matter what part of it you're in.
I was that guy.
Yeah. Doesn't matter which part you're in.
Hawker 800, just for your knowledge out there, they're not great to empty the lav.
No.
I've been poo-pooed on by the lav. I've taken a shower since, so we're good. But I think that's important, though, right? I mean, getting to be able to be on that part of aviation. Also, I'm a rite of passage guy. I think it's okay to cut your teeth a little bit in doing the jobs that maybe aren't as glamorous.
I think it definitely adds a level of humility in where, in getting started. I know I've done every terrible job that I think there's out there. Well, maybe not everyone, but a fair amount of them in the aviation side of things. And I don't know, it keeps you grounded, keeps you, not overly confident in it. And,
Sure.
And I think it's probably a great way to start. At least, well, that's the way I did it. So I guess hopefully it.
And essentially, if you've done every job, now when you own businesses that are within the aviation space, you can truly tell your employees, I've done this.
Yeah.
I've been there. Trust me. So I think it's important as leaders within the space too, to not just the aviation space, anything that you do, to have that ground level experience. So you're working line service, you're going through school. What's your first wrenching job?
So line service kind of led to a company that was starting a small aviation company. Well, they were actually, it was a charter, what would you call them? A feeder airline.
Okay.
So it was a feeder airline that had started up in the area. And they ended up starting.
It's all good. See, this is the thing about Heli-Expo is when you own a business, you're very busy.
Phone does not stop.
And the phone doesn't stop. I'm just sitting over here, and my leg is vibrating the whole time.
Okay,
right?
so I'm just not smart enough to put mine on silent.
You just got to put it on silent. But hey, we're actually the ones responsible for producing the show, so we should have actually told you to put your phone on silent.
All right, well, I'm going to do it right now.
Who called? Is it anyone important? Anyone cool?
I don't know. I'm going to put it on silent.
Lance, stop calling him. He's right here,
yeah,
okay?
Right.
He's busy right now.
So let's see. All right. So I ended up working for a small feeder airline called Reno Air Express, which they got bought up by American Airlines later on in life. But that was probably my first wrenching job. So I was still going through A&P school and working nights and weekends. So I'd go to school during the day and work all night long, and then try to catch a couple of hours in between, just there in the school parking lot. I got to say that one of my instructors that was kind of one of the original mentors of I guess aviation, and knew kind of how tough it can be. He'd let me sleep in the parking lot.
Nice.
For a few hours before classes would start up.
Incredible.
And never docked me any, points or anything on that side, and was just kind of happy to see somebody getting into aviation and taking it seriously, passionate about that side of the business. So, so I did that for quite a while I was going to A&P school. And then one night I went to work and the doors were locked up and couldn't get into my toolbox or anything else, and wondering what's going on. And next thing I do, I pick up a newspaper and find out that the airline's closed down.
Great.
So,
thanks for telling me.
Yeah. So I found about it in the local newspaper.
Sounds reminiscent of the Silver State debacle. Back in the day.
It was a little bit more common back then. I mean, jobs are a little bit more tough to come by. You kind of had to fight for every position you got.
Sure.
Certainly not like it is now. There's so many opportunities, I think.
Totally.
For young kids or anybody in the industry.
Really. So at some point, you start to kind of realize that maybe there's something that you could do that you can maybe do better, or more efficient, provide better service. When did this idea of kind of doing your own thing really start to blossom?
Not for a few more years. So I finished up A&P school, headed out, worked for a general aviation shop. So primarily small fixed wing stuff.
Okay.
For a minute, and then pretty quickly got to the point where just looking for a little bit more of a challenge. And there was a job opportunity with an air medical company down in Santa Rosa.
Okay.
And they had airplanes as well as helicopters. So they hired me actually because of my experience with the fixed wing.
Very cool.
Because that's what I had kind of cut my teeth on.
We won't hold it against you.
I know. So that was my gateway drug to
dual
getting in there.
purpose guy.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yep. And so quickly it went from the fixed wing side that I wasn't doing much of that, and straight to Augusta 109s was my original helicopter introduction.
Nice.
I guess. So the A model Augustas, jumped into those and started working a lot of hours. It was still a small, at that time, they're one of the largest air medical companies now in the U.S., but at the time they were.
I think I can guess
the origin.
I might take a reach at it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a small reach. Yeah, a little tiny place like that. So yeah, we ended up. I ended up there. At the time, they only had a couple of hangars, little T hangars. I was there for their inaugural cutting the hole between one hangar to the another one, and just cut a hole in the wall, and now we have two.
Now you have two hangars.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
So we there was only a handful of mechanics in us at that time, and so we just worked like crazy, and the company just continued to grow. And so I did that for quite a while, and then it got to the point where it was really, really tough to. I guess in our side of things, when you're a mechanic, there's this point where some frustration and some just thinking to yourself that there's got to be a different way of approaching maintenance. And when you're working for an operator, their mindsets are certainly a little bit different than a maintainer's. And so we ended up moving. I bounced around to a couple other jobs, ended up back in Reading. And I was working for a company, which is PJ Helicopters, utility company.
Yep. And
ended up doing that for a while. And then at the same time, I had established some rapport with a bunch of other customer base. So basically, my side job ended up turning into my real job. So I was running around at nights and weekends with a little small pickup truck, driving around the country.
With your pregnant wife.
Yeah, at the time, yeah. So it was kind of a crazy time. We had moved. I had quit the job that I thought I would probably be there forever. Moved back up to Reading, and she was pregnant. We had decided it was a good idea to build a house. We already had one daughter already, our oldest one. She was 2.5, 3 years old at the time, so very easy to deal with.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Self-sufficient, right?
Self-sufficient, 3-year-old, no problems.
Leave some water in the bowl. Oh, no,
Right.
That's for the dogs.
Right. And it's like, well, yeah, what better thing to do than start a business on top of that?
Yeah, and let's build a house, take on some debt. I mean, this is all...
It's perfect.
It's really a good idea.
Yeah. So, real smart.
I think it's... I want to just pause for a sec. And, obviously it's a helicopter podcast. We should mainly talk about helicopters. But I feel like I could start a podcast on entrepreneurialism because I love entrepreneurialism.
Yeah.
I love hearing from other entrepreneurs. And I think that now someone could probably look at you and say, man, I wish I had that. I wish I was doing that. What they don't see is the amount of sacrifice that goes into the entrepreneurial journey.
Sure.
The hurdles, the failures. They see the end result. And for some of us that are lucky enough to have a positive end result, it's nice, it's great. But they don't see everything else that kind of goes into it.
Yeah.
Driving around with your pregnant wife, wrenching on helicopters at all hours of the day, taking a risk and leaving your job that was probably providing you a salary to now create your own path. What was your mindset? Like, how did you, I have my kind of similar entrepreneurial story of what that felt like to me, but what did that time feel like to you, and what kept you going even when you would encounter, say, a hurdle or a setback?
Probably just pure stubbornness, I guess. I mean, there was a lot of times that it probably shouldn't have worked. There's probably a combination of stubbornness and luck.
Sure.
To some level. I mean, you don't, at that age and at that time, you really don't know what you don't know. And unfortunately, there wasn't a book, that kind of guided me in that direction. It was a lot of hard knocks.
You didn't have your Tony Robbins, How to Start a Business 101?
Did not have that one. I had not subscribed to that.
You can pass on it.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Okay, good. Perfect. But yeah, so it was probably a lot of hard knocks of just doing things, some the right way and some the wrong way.
Sure.
And just finding out the hard way.
Figuring out, trial by fire, right? I think
sure.
the best way to learn is by doing something incorrectly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it's definitely you got to do a lot of the wrong way in order to do it the right way.
Fail forward. It's
Yeah.
kind of what I tell my team. Like, hey, if you're going to make a decision and do something,
Sure.
fail forward.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
For my business, if my guys are upholding our values and they're providing the service that we expect, they might make a misstep. They may mess something up. It could kill a deal.
Sure.
But as long as they went into it with the idea that they were doing what we want them to do,
Sleep good at night.
then you know what? It's like, hey, you're going to learn from it. That's how I've built the business of just everything wrong that I've done, we just don't do anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like this idea of on-the-job training. Other than your aviation maintenance, did you have any other formal business training, college, anything like that?
Yeah, no. I mean, the lemonade stand as a kid. No, I mean
Same.
that was about it. I mean, I always kind of had that interest in just, I guess, picking up more, learning more, trying to. I'm always I'm intrigued by about everything. There's probably not a rabbit hole I haven't gone down once or twice, and
including a distillery, which I'm excited to talk to you about.
Yeah, exactly. So there's many times it's kind of funny backing up even when I was a kid. So in high school, one of my points where it was an aha moment for me was as a kid. I had a teacher that actually you would think this would crush somebody, but it did just the opposite. He actually told me that I would never amount to anything.
Love it.
And it was kind of funny. Everybody talks about all this inspirational stuff, but that was I guess that was my inspiration. It was kind of funny. I ended up going, oh, okay.
Isn't it funny how it sticks with you?
Yeah. Since high school. I remember the day. It's pretty funny.
I think as entrepreneurs, there's some bit of a feeling sometimes of, I think they call it imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like when you start to actually do well, you have this idea. For instance, this show has felt that way for me. I get to talk to guys like you. I'm talking to the leaders of these OEMs.
Sure.
I have to pinch myself a little bit. And also I feel like, man, what am I doing? How, right? And, growing up, dyslexic, I had what's called an IEP. It's an individual education plan.
Yeah.
And I had an adult tell me one time that he used a word that starts with R to explain my intelligence. And I kid you not, to this day, that's a driving force behind me wanting to prove that guy wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I
don't think so.
That's motivation itself. You have mentors that tell you all the right things and encourage you.
Yeah,
My team encourages me all the time. Producer Zach has been reaffirming that I'm the right person to have these conversations this week, and it's a good thing that I'm here. But you also have those people that deter you or try to.
Sure.
And I think as an entrepreneur, it's important. So you're driving around, you're wrenching on helicopters here and there. Mm-hmm. When does it turn into a
real
business? Job? Exactly. I mean, it's not a real job even to this day. Come on, you're doing what you love, right?
Definitely. I mean, I complain a lot about it, but at the end of the day, it's what I still love. I'm still passionate.
I don't ever complain, do I?
you make the jokes of I don't know why the heck I do this kind of thing, but I mean, at the end of the day, I love the business.
Yeah,
love the people in it. Love every bit of it.
And it's an incredible industry. We see it here at HAI, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This you walk around. It's difficult when you have a calendar to maintain, because I feel like every 10 feet I walk, I see one of my longtime friends.
Yeah.
And then I realize, oh, crap, I don't have any friends that are non-helicopter people. Like, maybe I should, branch out a little bit.
Well, the guys, when we were coming over here, actually, just on that one, they're over here making side bets on how many times we get stopped to chit-chat with somebody.
Yeah, it's hard.
So, yeah.
Mike Reno from Vertical, he's the worst to walk around the show with, because everybody knows him.
Oh, yeah, it'd be impossible.
And so it's okay, I'm not...
Yep.
Just get me far away from Mike, because if I want to get from A to B at this show, I'm never getting there. So when is the point where it's like, okay, hey, things are starting to kind of roll into the right direction. I'm gaining more business. When do you make the leap to officially open? Was it Advanced that opened first?
No, so it was a little less unique. It was Sparrow Aviation.
Okay.
So it was just myself. I had two other guys that were working part-time for me. And I don't remember the exact moment, but it just got to the point where it wasn't sustainable anymore. Where, I was just living on E all the time.
Yeah.
It was just running from place to place. Didn't have enough time in the day to just get it all done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so finally made that pulled the plug, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start this. I'm just going to go out and not count on somebody else's paycheck, and figure out what I'm going to do. And luckily, I had a group of customers that were extremely loyal, and they knew the work that we did, and that we were willing to go anywhere, do anything that needed to be to support them. And so they stuck with us, and so we grew it from a couple-man team to it is what it is today. It was a little slower progression. We ended up going from where I was in Redding. A lot of the work was in Sacramento and that area. There was a larger concentration of helicopters and business down that way, and a lot of our clients were down that way. So I ended up moving down that way and then commuting home on the weekends, which is super great on a relationship.
Yeah, sounds. Yeah. Nothing in aviation is good on a relationship. Let's be honest.
It's pretty brutal. 2 young kids and wife, and so finally just got them packed up. I'll tell you what, my family. I hate, everybody wants to do their shout outs to their family, but it's one of those ones that they followed me everywhere, and would not have been able to do a lot of what we've done as a company without their support. So
yeah, it's incredible. It takes a village.
It does.
And having the support of your loved ones, your wife, your kids, it's super important. Definitely. I'm fortunate enough, like you, because I believe your wife is involved in your organization.
Yeah,
right?
She's still involved, very involved.
Yeah, it's same with my wife, with my business. It's she does everything that I'm not good at, and the things that I don't really like to do. Accounting and the important stuff, right? So it's incredible, because they truly become your greatest support, and they do a lot of it kind of behind the scenes, right? We're here walking the show, we're shaking the hands, kissing the babies, and I'm thankful for my wife on supporting me in that journey, and it's important. So let's just kind of fast forward here a little bit. You hire a couple other guys, and now today, what are we looking at between your two businesses? What is the size and scope?
We're still relatively small, I guess, in size and scope, but we've got 2 primary locations. We've got 2 companies, 2 primary locations up in Auburn, Washington, and then in Woodland, which is right outside of Sacramento. Okay. So Advanced Helicopters and Cascade Helicopters. Prior to that, that's what they've become today.
Sure.
So when I finally had moved down to Sacramento, I started there. That was the initial business, and that we've grown into what is Advanced today. Yeah,
it's kind of funny, because when Mitch from Vertical made the introduction, and I saw Cascade. My kind of funny story about learning about your business and actually working with your team. Great experience, by the way.
Good.
I don't know if they told you. I bought them lunch. I'm just gonna.
Oh, good.
I don't know.
No, they didn't let me know.
I didn't know if you.
that.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, man.
I got catering and all.
Jeez.
But it was this funny scenario. We had up at your Cascade location. One of our clients had a A-Star. I think it was a B3, and you guys were maintaining it. And the client asked us to sell the aircraft. Helicopter kind of sat for a while. Kind of a bit of an ugly duckling, to be honest. Old Sundance paint scheme, high time machine.
Yeah.
And client calls, says, hey, I'm going to pull it off the market. Okay, fine. We had been talking to this guy in the Dominican Republic, but he had kind of gone cold. Right as he decides to pull the listing down, we get a call from the escrow company. Hey, we just got, 1.x, whatever it was, in escrow for this serial number. And I'm like, what? from who? And she told me, and these guys from the Dominican Republic, like 3 days later, had ended up, funding escrow, and they had asked us to, hey, who can do a pre-buy? I said, well, let's have the guys that are maintaining it do it. So I worked with your team, Justin.
Yeah.
I'm sure Justin can also tell you some funny stories about that whole scenario, because it was kind of a weird deal, but it worked out. Great team.
Great to hear.
You guys really excelled actually in customer service. I mean, I won't divulge and bore you with the long story, but my first and currently only experience was extremely positive, to the point where I felt like I was calling them so much that they deserved a free lunch on me.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I mean, that's definitely what we try to do up there. Everywhere, but that company is. I've owned Cascade side of it for about 10 years now.
Okay.
And that's pretty much what they've cut their teeth on is customer service and making sure that they go above and beyond.
For listeners that may be unfamiliar with Advance and Cascade, just give us a little scope of work of what you guys do, what your primary mission mindset is within this industry.
So both locations mirror each other pretty closely. Their light medium helicopter is basically what we focus on the maintaining side. Everything from avionics to MRO, any of the maintenance piece of it, from heavy maintenance to light maintenance. Both companies have got a little bit of their own areas of expertise. I would say Cascade tends to lean towards a lot of the corporate customers. A lot more of the white glove customer base seems to be up there, and I think it's just maybe geographics of where they've ended up.
Sure.
And then the advanced side has done a lot more in the areas of law enforcement, utility, and that side of the business. So those are the differences. Same same aircraft types and models we do. Most all the OEMs. So
Different clientele.
Just a little different clientele.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm not super. Obviously, my business is not as an MRO. I'm kind of curious to hear what are some of the challenges that you face currently within as the current, whether it's economy or just the current overall state of the industry. What are some of the biggest challenges that both of your companies kind of face? Parts,
and people.
Yeah,
2 P's.
On the people side, I have buddies that own maintenance shops. They're maintainers, whatnot. For them, it's been really hard to find qualified people.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience?
Yeah, enticing new people even just to the West Coast in general, even between the Washington and the Sacramento side of things. It's tough to get people to want to come over to that West Coast. It's expensive. So it's got its challenges when it comes to enticing people in. We've been lucky enough that the majority of our employees and everyone that's there has been there a long time. So we don't have a big turnover, which has been extremely helpful in being able to take on more opportunities. And but that I think that's going to continue to haunt this industry a bit. We as an industry, in my opinion, have done a very poor job of promoting ourselves to the younger generation coming into the biz.
100%. Well, what we're trying to do with content like this is be able to introduce young guys and gals into this industry. I think part of the helicopter world is that it seems and feels very unattainable.
Yep.
You, by happen chance of where you grew up, you were kind of exposed to logging, which had helicopters. You kind of saw it, probably piqued your interest there. And nowadays we live in an age where, like it or love it, so much of the young people, including myself as kind of an older guy, we consume our content on social media, right? And we consume it through podcasts, Instagram, Facebook. And so I think it's really cool. I've seen and heard from our listeners that just by being able to listen to the podcast and kind of get a blueprint of how they can find the path within aviation has inspired them to make that leap. And so I'm hoping that I can play a small role in creating that. And I think conversations with people like yourself are vital. And I think some business owners are fearful of coming on and talking and doing the podcast, right? Trust me, I was way more nervous. It's like that the pilot sticker that you can put on the back of your helmet for your passengers see. I'm way more nervous. But I think it's important because I think then it gives a path. It gives a gateway. Here's a guy, humble beginnings, worked around helicopters, sowed his oats doing line service, went to an aviation college, and now you have your own business, and a successful business with a good reputation. So I think if we can show that pathway, I think it's important. Hopefully we can help. Employee retention is hard for any industry.
It really is.
And I think in the new age, companies by and large have done a poor job at making the workplace an enjoyable place to be.
It's tough.
With you having long-term employees and having good retention, what is some of the culture and values that you've brought within your business to make that possible?
Thank you to our sponsor, Hillsborough Heli Academy. Embark on your helicopter pilot journey with Hillsborough Heli Academy. Known worldwide, they make it easy to achieve both U.S. and European helicopter licenses. Visit flyhaa.com to schedule your introductory flight and turn your dream into a career.
I think that the family atmosphere it's not just a buzzword. I mean, we kind of live to it. We definitely have, I guess it's showing through. I mean, even at the end of the day, when it is a tough business and you end up working a lot of, late nights and weekends and you end up spending a lot of time with your coworkers more than you do with your own family members sometimes. You better start living to that value because they got to want to spend some time with you.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's probably the biggest one that we has helped us retain people long term. It's just family atmosphere, family values.
I'm sure we have
even with the growth.
I'm sure we have listeners that are maybe finishing school right now, getting their A&P, have this aspiration of wanting to wrench on aircraft. Mm-hmm. When a young person that's getting into the business comes to you for a job, what are the attributes that you're looking? What characteristics? What are you wanting to see from that individual to make them to give you the confidence that they're going to be the right fit for your operation?
It's funny. It's changed over the years. I've really changed my way that I interview and approach young talent into our organization. It used to be, what are your job qualifications? What have you worked on?
Yeah.
And it's really turned into asking questions more of in the areas of what are you passionate about? What do you think of integrity? What do you some of the words that what does that mean to you? And I think that some of the those core values become way more important than maybe even just that initial technical ability. So that's where we ended up starting to kind of focus on is more of that kind of value system than the experience level. Some of the experience level, we've got a pretty strong team with a lot of years of experience, and a lot of that we can teach in. And
Totally.
and we've got some great mentors in the business that that can help young technicians or any of the other areas of our business to grow. So we just look for the core values at this point.
I think it's important. I mean, we get hit up all the time of pilots mostly asking like, hey, how should I conduct myself? You know, how can I be successful?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, should I fly this and should I fly that? Is that going to look better on my resume? And it's like, honestly, that's important, right? You got to have the hours to fly the helicopter. You got to
there's some basic. Yeah.
There's some basic,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But by and large, it's about who you are as a person, right? Do
sure.
people want to work with you?
Yep.
Are you a team player? Like you said, we're spending most of our lives at work with the people that we work with. So do we want to work with you? Do we want to be with you day in, day out, right? Is it, you know, it's more important. And I think it's neat because I think a lot of people on just the maintenance and even the pilot side feel like they can't break into places, right? How do I just get that first shot? And it does seem like companies are starting to kind of take this approach of like, hey, we're actually eager and open to take young talent.
Yeah, have to.
It doesn't.
Better.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter about what your resume says and if you worked on this helicopter or that helicopter.
Sure.
It's about, hey, are you going to be someone that can be mentored? Can you be coached? Can you have a good attitude? And then you actually probably get to create kind of your ideal maintainer. You know, you get to mold that individual into your system. And so I think that's neat that you're doing that.
It's really rewarding at this point for myself to see some of these guys that with minimal experience just coming into it, but you just see their growth in them, and you see what they're actually capable, and they're given a little bit of opportunity like that. So
Absolutely.
It's great. It's absolutely great.
Transitioning a little bit over to HAI, obviously we're here, so we should talk about it. What does HAI mean to you in your business? What does it look like when you're here? What are some of the things that you're trying to accomplish? What is your team working on?
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you start seeing all the new things, and everybody's set up. I mean, it gets to be a little bit on the pricey side, and you know, you end up spending a ton of money on things that you hope bring value,
of course,
because it's not necessarily a direct
100%.
correlation. I guess for us, it's just, hey, we're here. You know that we're in the business. You know, we're committed to you as a customers, and we're here for the long run. And I think that's why we end up showing up at these things and putting a booth up and spending that money. It's hard to make,
cheap,
and it's
man.
even harder to spend on these kind of things.
My joke about HAI, we have this nice table here that our GoPros are on. I didn't set this table up. I don't know what it is, but last year when I had a booth, we had to get a little bar table.
Oh, man.
And so go up to the GES folks, and $1,000 for a bar table. So I don't
want to buy it. I just want to borrow it.
I just rented one for $30, and that worked out better.
Yeah.
Not a gripe, I guess. I understand that this is a business, and they do it that way. But it's an expensive event. It's a big investment. You're sending people, airfare, hotels. There's a little bit of drinking that occurs here.
Just a tiny bit
at HAI. Just a little bit of the culture. But yeah, I mean, it's a super cool event. Has there been anything in particular that's caught your eye?
The size of this event this year, I think it's a great year. I mean, the traffic's been amazing. It's good to see everything rebound back so quickly. And I haven't heard what the count is, but I'm guessing this has been one of the top shows for a long time.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of activity, a lot of people passing through. Kind of cool. I was told earlier in the week that Anaheim was actually the first location of Heli-Expo. Huh. And now to be celebrating 75 years of doing it, which I had no idea helicopters were even that old.
Yeah.
I guess they are. Who knows?
Been around a minute. Yeah.
So, other than aviation, you've obviously also now got into a new business venture. It looks like we may have.
Yeah, I brought you guys
have a little gift down here.
So to partake.
You talk about Heart's Creed. How do you go from helicopters to bourbon whiskey?
Well, I mean, it seems like a very natural progression in my opinion, but we'll see. No, that was more of a passion project, a hobby at the time that's kind of turned into its own beast of itself. A buddy and I enjoyed getting together and monster garaging, and we had a little still that we really weren't supposed to have, but we had a still, and we'd cook up some mash and make a little whiskey there and put it in some small little barrels and mess around with it for a while, and then one day he's in a business that's he was a builder, but for these big custom homes, and so he would come home from being on the road for a long time, and we'd get together and we'd pop a bottle of booze and chit chat about wouldn't it be cool if we could do something ourselves, and one bottle led into another, and we both grew up in the same area, small town that I was talking about earlier, and there happened to be a building that came available up in that area that we knew. It's a 2-story brick building, used to be an old 1800s mercantile, gold rush era.
Very cool.
Very cool building, and one drunken night we decided that we were going to see if we could actually turn this into a business as well. So next day we called the owner of the building, small town, so everybody knows everybody. And just so happens that he was wanting to get rid of the building. And we're like, this building would be perfect for a distillery. So jumped into it and didn't really know anything to do with that side of the business or how to even get it started. So just kind of dug into it almost with the same entrepreneurial spirit of aviation. And
Sure.
Just roll up your sleeves and figure it out. And a lot of... it's funny, the rules in the spirit side of things is almost as technical as aviation when it
Sure.
comes to regulations. So navigated a bunch of that and just didn't get deterred by the nose and some of the agencies that put a roadblock in front of you every single minute.
Of course.
And we were able to get it off the ground, and fast forwarding... 6 years now. I think we're
Judges?
7 years. 7 years into it now. So this is actually that's one of our bourbons that we started about 6 years ago. So that's about a 6-year-old bourbon.
Wow.
And we've got a restaurant bar as well as a distillery now that we make a bunch of craft spirits and get to play around with. So it's pretty fun. It's more of a passion project.
I was going to say, if obviously you have your aviation business.
Yeah.
And now you're a classic entrepreneur, silly enough to do another business.
Yes.
We can't learn.
No.
Can't learn.
No. Serial entrepreneur.
But with it being kind of a passion project, is it almost like when you're working on this, it's a way to kind of turn your brain off on the helicopters just for a minute?
That was definitely the idea. I mean, obviously the helicopter industry can be extremely demanding. So this idea was to do something a little bit that a release, I guess, from the day-to-day craziness of the helicopter world business. But as you get into it, it turns into a business as well.
Yeah.
So
just like anything.
Yeah. So it's turned into a business as well. We're working on more and more distribution on that side. And
so where can people go and find you?
California, we can direct ship now. They've allowed that, so we can do up to 3 bottles of direct ship. And
does it have to go to California though?
Yeah.
I was going to say this could be a cool hey, you just bought a helicopter from us.
I know.
Here's some bourbon.
I know. Yeah.
I tried to ship alcohol before. I learned it was very difficult.
It's really tough. Some of those old prohibition laws are still very much in play.
That's really insane.
It's amazing. It shouldn't be, but
well,
wine industries and some of the other industries have done a better job of kind of promoting it.
Sure.
This is relatively new, unless you're in Kentucky.
Of course,
those areas
that's like the birthplace.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Sparrow, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate you kind of sharing your story.
Happy to do it.
Again, I think it's important for guys like you to come and have these conversations to shed light on the viability of not just working in this industry, but also creating your own path within this industry.
Sure.
I think it shows people that there is a pathway.
Absolutely.
There's an end. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And so I think it's really important. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
For our listeners out there that may want to connect with you, maybe they're looking for a job. Maybe they have a helicopter that needs service.
My phone doesn't turn off. If you're looking for another opportunity,
we heard
give
it
me a
ring.
call anytime. Absolutely.
So it's Cascade Helicopter Services, Advanced Helicopter Services.
Yes, sir.
Who came up with your logos?
Our marketing director, Mr. Lance Banks.
Lance, you did the logos?
I did.
I got to say, man, I love the logos. I really do.
Yes.
Lance, you did a good job.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah.
All right, well, Sparrow, thanks so much for joining the Helicopter Podcast. To our listeners, thank you for supporting. Please make sure that you like, subscribe. We're on all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple. Also, find us on the Helicopter Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Give us a follow to hopefully continue to grow this platform to help the industry, help individuals navigating it. And it's not possible without amazing guests like Sparrow. So thanks for taking the time, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Sweet. Hey, podcast listeners. My name is Halsey Schider, and I'm the principal broker and owner of Helicopter. Helicopter is a new age, data-driven, helicopter-specific sales brokerage, bringing helicopter listings to new heights. At Helicopter, we utilize digital positioning, paid advertising, and our large network of industry professionals to move your helicopter quickly and efficiently. Unsure the value of your helicopter? Lucky for you, Helicopter offers a complimentary market evaluation. All you have to do is contact the team today. Are you ready to take your helicopter listing from Mayday to payday? Easy. Fill out the contact information below, and a Helicopter pilot agent will reach out shortly. Helicopter. List it, sell it, done.